And we're live. It is night 2 of the Defining Your Legacy. We got Miss Shakira, you got Catherine. We're back again with what's our topic for tonight?
Budgeting and savings, my favorite. Isn't it your favorite too?
It is my favorite because this is the foundation. Like nothing else in finance matters unless you have a budget, unless you're good with your money. Like this is where the pavement hits the road.
Yep,
This
this
is
is the
it.
meat and potatoes of it all. Like the budgeting. I know most people when they hear budget, they're like, I don't want to do budgeting. But let me tell you something. A budget is only a guideline for where your money should be going, or is going, actually, is going. So budgets are very crucial to any type of financial foundation. And it's important that everyone does it. And Catherine, I know you know this, but man, I think it's like 3 out of 5 Americans or have a budget. So it's kind of scary that not everyone is on board to budgeting. Yeah.
Yes, because the important thing with budgeting is that you don't know, you may not be spending too much. Like everyone is quick to be like, I'm spending too much money in this one place, but that may not be the truth. You may have an income problem rather than, a spending problem. So it's just important for like people like us who are financial coaches, it's important for us to know like where your money is going. So then we can be like, hey, this is what you need to do.
Mhm.
But we're going to jump right back into it. Like yesterday, we talked about income and we talked about 7 different streams of income, things that possibly you may not have thought about. We talked about tax hacking with income because, as I said before, the government hates single people with no kids and W-2 employees.
Yes.
Like, always keep that in the back of your mind.
Mhm.
So hopefully you did your homework and you've been generating some ideas that you can do, possibly to bring in another stream of income. But
Most
listen,
importantly, yeah. Super
mhm.
important.
Yes, but let's start with budgeting. So Miss Shakira, tell us,
Yeah. So,
what
yeah,
do we need to know?
like budgeting is my favorite. So first things first, budgeting. Let's break it down into how to budget because most people, I think, what they fall into is they don't know how to properly budget. So when you're creating your budget, you should have an idea of everything that's going into your bank account. That's after taxes, not before taxes. So you want to make sure you're accounting for that income that you get after your tax, and you also want to know exactly what you're spending because oftentimes we forget about subscriptions, we forget about different things that we have automatic, and when we do our budget we don't count that in. So what I have my clients do is I have them print out their credit card statements and their bank statements. I have them take 2 highlighters, different colors, and I have them go through it and write down the needs, highlight the needs, and highlight the wants. So they'll have an idea of what they're actually spending. Because, like Catherine said, sometimes you think you're overspending and you're not. And sometimes you think you're not overspending and you are because you have really no idea about what's going on. Every dollar needs to be accounted for. And I stress that highly is that every single dollar you have coming into your bank account needs to be accounted for. You need to know where everything is going and what it's doing because that's going to help you outline in your budget.
And to add to that, it's very important you know the difference between a need and a want because I think some people get that conflicted. Like a need is definitely like your housing, transportation, groceries, not eating out, groceries. Like
Your
those are,
insurance,
yes,
yeah.
those are needs because, a rainy day happens, what are you going to do? So, but then we have wants on the other side, and people are like, well, yes, you need clothing, but do you need Gucci? You don't. Or it's just, it's just a, it's just a lot of things that go into needs and wants because for some things, it may be a need for somebody. Like internet is definitely a need, especially with kids who are using Chromebooks. They don't even use textbooks anymore. But for older adults, they may not have the need for internet because they didn't grow up in the technology age like some of us younger people out here. So they may not need internet. So just the important thing to know is that this is not, budgeting is not cookie cutter. And I think, yes. And then you have financial experts like, Dave Ramsey that try to preach that this is all you have to do. But yes, the program may work for some people, but it's not going to work for all people. And that's kind of like how we end up with people, like they'll get on the bandwagon and then they'll fall off sometime later and they're right back to square one because they haven't found that method or process that works for them.
That is an excellent point. It's not a cookie cutter. You can't follow everyone's. Like what I learned is I take what from everybody's philosophy and I take what works for me. So that has helped me along the way because sometimes people have good stuff and sometimes it's not feasible for you, it doesn't work for you. So you definitely want to enter it in with an open mind, but taking what actually works for you and being honest with yourself. Um,
And like the best part about budgeting that I like is that you can make room for things that you want in your budget. It's not saying that you have to eat ramen noodles every night. You don't have to eat pork and beans every night. It's not saying that. Like if there's something you really want, then you need to put it in your budget. Because then if you come out at the end and you're in a deficit, that you're spending more than you're bringing in each month, then that's when you need to start looking at what can I cut, what is not necessarily a want, so that I can supply my needs over here.
yeah.
And then at the end of the day, that's how you will know that you have an income problem. And so now you need to start thinking about what are ways to generate more income, whether I need to possibly go back to school and switch careers, or I need to pick up maybe a second job temporary so I can bring things in. But typically when I work with clients, we start cutting, etc. things out of the budget. Like maybe there's something you can do without for 6 months. Like, could you possibly cut off cable for 6 months and maybe only depend on a streaming service for that short amount of time? You can save money that way.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to bring up is once you do your budget, you have to go back and double check. Because I think most people, and I used to be guilty of this. You ever write down all your bills on a napkin or a piece of paper, and then and then the end of the month you're like, "Why I don't have any money?" Because you didn't go back and double check it. So the budget, it's important for you to structure it correctly with the proper information, accurate numbers, figures. But more importantly, is going at the end of it and double checking it and make sure you didn't go over. And as you get accustomed to it, it becomes natural. So you know when you're overspending, you know when you're going out of your budget. But in the beginning, if this is new to you, I definitely suggest that you stick on your track and check it each month whenever you make your budget, your outline.
Yes. And then because with budgeting, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to magically have $500 at the end of the month just because you budgeted once. That's not how it works. It's like it's even a training process, even for people who are like in finances. Like I still have to think about, wait a minute. It's like,
Yep.
how much did I spend? Then I
Yes.
have to go check and I'm like, oh, I'm over budget. I can't do it.
Yep. And you start to feel when you overspend. You're like, wait a minute, I don't swipe this debit card way too many times, or I hit that phone way too many times on
Mhm.
these payment systems. So you'll learn, but the most important thing is to be aware and to start conditioning yourself to write down your expenses, check and make sure you're not overspending, being honest with yourself. Like honesty is the number one important thing. I have no problem telling someone that's not in my budget. I have no shame in that. And I think oftentimes we feel like, oh, if we tell someone we can't afford it, we're going to look bad. Not me. I'm the first one. I can't afford it. I'm okay with saying I can't afford it. And I think that's important for everyone to take home today. Being okay with saying that it's not in my budget, because it's not more demoralizing you or saying that you don't have it. It's just saying you're more responsible at the moment.
Yes.
Mhm.
So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about some budgeting methods. Like I think
Yes.
we did a great overview of what budgeting is, but there are several different methods of how you can budget. Like especially if you're a person that uses cash, one popular one is the envelope system. And basically you have envelopes with like different labels on them for different expenses and you put cash into there each month. So when that envelope is empty, that's it. You can't spend anymore.
Can't spend the paper. Can't spend the envelope.
Yes. So, but what about the people who don't want to use cash, who don't carry cash with them? Like every time they're swiping that debit card, just shoo, shoo, shoo. Like you would benefit more from either having an app, like you need a budget, True Bill, even an Excel spreadsheet that can pull in those transactions for you. and then you can see them and you can categorize them yourself. Or some apps, you can put a tag on the transaction and it automatically knows like, oh, this is McDonald's, this goes in the restaurant category, and it'll sort it for you.
Yes, that's true. Also, my Chase, I bank with Chase. This is not like a advertising for Chase, but we have a spending plan at the end of the month where it breaks down all of what I spend in, so I know if I'm overspending. So that's another thing that you can add to your when you're doing your budget. If you're going to do that envelope method, not really not the envelope method, but if you're going to watch and see what you're doing, that's another thing you can look at.
Yes, if you look at your most banks and credit unions at the end of the month, if you look at your monthly statement, it'll make a nice little pie chart and it'll tell you like where you spent your money also. But I know a lot of people don't look at their monthly statements at the end.
You got it. That's where you find the free money. The money that you're
Right.
overspending, you find it in there. But another budgeting system that you can use is you can look at what you used before. So I forget the exact term of that, but you take what you used before and you just replicate it, and you just keep just using that same format for future months. That's another system that you guys can definitely take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. And then the 50-30-20 is another popular budget. It's probably like the number one I see. It's like 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20 for your savings. So whenever you get paid, that's you divide your money up into these buckets, and then that's how you budget. It's kind of more basic to get people disciplined. Like, okay, 50% of my check goes here, 30% goes here, 20 goes here. So it's kind of like helping people train their mind, that get them into the swing of budgeting. Because we're going to be honest, like, we're emotional beings. We're not made to make rational decisions. Like, if we see something that we want and it's sitting in and we check our checking account and the money is there, 9 times out of 10, we're going to buy it.
Yes.
Because we really want that item, or we really want this thing.
Yes. And that 50-30-20, good point. It also helps you with understanding how much should go where, because we're trying to figure out how much should we be spending on our rent, our needs, like our rent, because I know sometimes we overspend, especially now if you live in a major city, you're overspending on your rent. So keeping that 50% helps you keep in line so that you're not spending too much on living expenses and you're giving enough to invest in and savings, because that's going to be the important part of setting up your financial foundation. You need that savings and investing component. So that 50-30-20 helps keep you on track of where you should be with your spending.
Yes. All right, so we're gonna keep this party going. So also with budgeting, another thing we should look out for is that there's a difference between budgeting and tracking. Like, a lot of people I see that they only track their expenses, and tracking is good in like the first 1 to 2 months when you're about to budget, because you need to see like where your money's going. So
you need that data.
Yes. So I mean, like, you can't say, well, I'm only going to spend $50 on eating out this month, when typically you spend about 200.
Yes.
Like, you are not going, your brain is not going to let you do that, because it's like, no, it's Friday, we got paid, we're going to go get something to eat. Like, your body is trained, like, this is what we do, especially if you have a family, you got little mouths to feed. That eating out bill is gonna go up.
Let me tell you something. During the pandemic, we used to do once a week Uber Eats. And then I started looking at my account and I'm like, wait a minute, Uber Eats is getting expensive. That's like $300 a month. So we had to cut that down to every other week, and then we down to once a month now, because it does add up. And if you don't realize how much you normally spend, you would definitely underestimate yourself for spending. So it's definitely important that you have that data.
Yes. Another thing to look at is like with gas, like gas prices have like jumped up so high. So typically your gas budget may be like, oh, I can get through with like $50 a month. Now, yeah, exactly. You're probably at double. You're probably at $100. But see, that's the importance of a budget, because you can move stuff around. And like, in case of these emergencies, or you have your savings, that's what it's there for. It's there for emergencies.
Exactly. Yeah. So, with budgeting, one trick that helps me is separate accounts. So I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I have separate accounts for different things. So I have accounts for the household bills, accounts for the wants, accounts for like investing and saving. So I learned that setting yourself up with different accounts helps you stay better on track with your budgeting because it's not all coming from one place. And we're all about diversifying everything. So it's important that you just not have one account that everything gets paid out of. Multiple accounts is what's gonna help you keep track and stay on top of it. If you can handle the multiple accounts, that's it. If it's
Yes,
not too much
because
for you.
because definitely if you're a person that's like definitely people who are like overspender personalities, they need to keep it separate. And
Mhm.
like even to the point of like keep it separate and don't put it in a bank or a savings account where there's a card attached to it because you're going to use it.
Mhm.
So typically it'll take like 2 to 3 business days for money to move over to an account. So then that's why you should have that separate account. It's just like, this is my general savings over here. And then it's okay to have like your emergency fund attached to your regular banking because that's what it's there for. It's an emergency.
Mhm.
But if you know yourself as that I'm not a disciplined person, then you may want to look at getting like 3 different accounts, one for my bills, one for my emergency fund, and one for general savings.
Yes, yes, very important. And your employer, you can talk to your HR department. They can set that up. I think you can have up to 3 accounts for direct deposit. So, like, I have my 2 checking accounts set up with direct deposit where it splits it in half. So the one for the rent goes to one account and the bills go to the other account. And that'll be a way to keep you also on track because sometimes you get busy, you forget to do certain things. So this is automating certain steps and the process helps you along the way.
Automating, that's a good point because you can automate your savings, especially if you're a person that gets paid on the same day each month, like every Friday, every other Friday. You can already set it up for your bank account to draw out X amount of dollars before you even see it. Like as soon as it hits, it's gone. It's out of sight, out of mind. You do not have to worry about it.
Yep, yep, yep. That's the best way to do it when you do not have to worry about it. Because let me tell you something, trying to transfer it over after it done hit that account and you done got paid, and you're like, oh, wait, I got extra money. No, let it go out as soon as everything goes out. Speaking of your savings account, your savings should be the first bill you pay. Yourself should be the first bill you pay. Because I know oftentimes we were taught you pay your bills and whatever's left, you save it, but I'm here to tell you, dismantle that whole belief system. You pay yourself first. And if you run out of money, then you need to go back to that budget and tweak what you need to tweak. But that savings account is there for a reason. And you're paying yourself first. It's going to set the tone for you for your future. It's going to make sure that you're taken care of.
Right. And I know some people would be like, well, I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, I want you to think about this. I was like during the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs
Mhm.
immediately. And a lot of people who were already in stressful financial situations that was exacerbated like with
Mhm.
that. So a lot of those people didn't have savings, they unemployment took like what 15 weeks to get.
Yeah. And some
Yeah.
people still don't have their unemployment to this day. They're still
Right.
fighting for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason why we're stressing to pay yourself first is because you never know what's going to happen. Like your
Mhm.
job could just up and move to Mexico. You're out of a job and it may seem secure, but nothing in life
Nothing
is
is
promised,
guaranteed. Mm-mm.
especially with corporations who are always trying to profit, trying to get a high percentage profit. Yeah, they will close up shop and move to some
Mhm.
overseas and destination where they can pay someone pennies on a dollar in a heartbeat. They'll
Yep.
pay the excess tax to get their items
Mhm.
shipped here because either way, they're still making more profit than they would if they kept operations here in the US.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah, definitely. And even if it's not even the job situation, if you have a car, flat tire, I don't have a car, so I can't imagine all the things that could go wrong with a car. Or if your child needs something in an emergency case, having that emergency savings account is what's going to save you. Because most Americans don't have $1,000 saved. It's like it's mind blowing that we don't have money saved in case something was to happen. We're living paycheck to paycheck, and we have to get out that cycle, that little hamster wheel that keeps rolling. We have to stop it and get off and make sure that we're set and secured.
Right. And then another thing I'll bring in is that a lot of people, they put emergencies on credit cards. And so then think about the interest that's accumulating on there. Well, I mean, that's why credit card companies are like $1 billion companies.
Oh my God. In 2020? Because I put this in my book. In 2020, they made $176 billion off for interest and late payment fees.
Mm, it's crazy.
Crazy. Crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, let's keep going. So we talked about budgeting methods. We talked about the importance of budgeting. So let's slide now into let's just talk about savings.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we're talking about savings, please do not put your savings in your mattress. I'm calling a lot of people out right now, but please do not put your money in a mattress. Number one, because if you do not have adequate house insurance, that's my first concern, is that money is burnt up in there. I don't think on a homeowner's policy, you can say that, yeah, I had about $5,000 in my mattress. I don't think the insurance will cover that.
No,
They'll probably give you your mattress, probably get you another one. But I don't think they're going to cover your money. And then also, I know a lot of people, like just growing up, they were like, oh, we don't trust the banks. The banks take people money. They have late fees. They have all of the et cetera. And I'm just like, there are some shady banks out there for sure. But you need to but there are plenty of banks that they are guaranteed by the government. Like, look for any bank that's FDIC insured. And that's in case if the bank just wakes up one day and closes its doors, you can get your money back.
Yes.
Like my earlier example with the fire, you're probably not going to get that money back that was in your mattress. It's gone. But at least in the bank, the government's going to step in and be like, oh, you had $5,000 in your account. Here you go. It may take a little while to get it because it's the government.
Yep.
But at least you'll get it back.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's no mattress money, no shoebox money, no drawer money.
And then also you just run into the issue of that if you have, even hate to say this, a family member who knows about it and you're gone, possibly on vacation, gone to work, and they break in and take it. I mean, that's it. You know, unless you have like a Ring doorbell or something, and they'd be like, oh, this person entered my house unauthorized. But if you don't have that, the police are just like, what do you want us to do?
Yep.
We have no leads, so it's gone. So just something.
Yeah, on top of that, you lose value when it's in a mattress. Like, your money needs to grow for you. And it's sitting in a mattress, sitting in a shoebox, it's not growing. And yeah, you do need to have a couple of, emergency dollar bills around the house because you don't want to walk around with no cash. But we're talking about your savings. Your savings should be in an institution that's growing for you, because you always want your money to grow for you.
I mean, that's another key point, is that you can't save yourself to wealth. There is literally no one in the history of time that put all their money into like a basic savings account and then they retired 60 years later and they were a millionaire. It does not work like that.
Does not happen.
And it would be nice if it did, though.
But no. I mean, unless you had $1 million to start off with, but still,
that $1 million still
in 60 years.
Okay, because most interest on savings account is like 0.01. That is a good homework assignment. I want you to go look at your savings account, and it'll say interest YTD for yield. And you can see it'll have a little percentage, and it's probably going to be 0.01. But there are some places that are even lower than that, and it's 0.001 or 0.02. Like, it's just like the bank is taking your money and lending it out to people for like 9%. And then they're giving you just a little bitty share of that with the 0.01 while they're making so much money. So that's why it's important for people to be educated that, hey, don't leave all your money in savings, which we're going to talk about this when we talk about investment day, which is going to be my favorite day. Yes. Teach people how to invest. But we're focusing on budgeting and savings, because why this came first is because if you don't have money saved, how are you going to have money to invest?
Yes. And if you don't know your budget, you don't know what you could save and what you can afford to invest. So that's why this one came 1st. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because then another point is that do you think that you're going to put $5 in every month and have enough to retire in 30 years? No, I'm about to say I could pull out my financial calculator and tell you what the calculation would be, but I'm gonna save you from that and tell you that you're not.
Yeah, it's definitely not. But until we get to the investing, when you do the savings, I love high yield savings accounts.
Yes,
I think they're saving grace for us in the beginning because you want to have at least 6 months of your expenses saved, tucked away in case anything was to happen. And of course, you should have a little bit of money in your savings account that's attached to your bank account in case you got to do a quick transfer. But definitely put the extra into the high yield savings. Catherine, do you have any high yield savings that you're a big fan of?
yes, I love Alley Bank.
Yeah, Ali
And
Ali Bank has the different buckets. So if you
yes,
want to do like savings for a vacation, savings for different type of, special things you want to do, Ali Bank is perfect for that.
yes. And you can
Mhm.
also get a card that's like, remember, if you are not disciplined, do not get the card. Just keep the money there and link it to your bank account
Mhm.
for like, I think their transfers is like 1 to 2 business days. It depends on the receiving bank. But also another good one, Barclays.
Mhm.
They're a good bank.
I love American Express high yield savings. They have
Yes,
one. Discover has one, and Goldman. Did you say Goldman Sachs?
I didn't, but yeah,
Goldman
Goldman
Sachs
Sachs
has
is
one.
good.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and with the same thing with the regular bank, like Catherine said, you want to make sure it's FDIC insured because some of them are not FDIC insured, and you do not want to take any chances with that because anything can happen.
for example, Chime is not FDIC insured. And there are a lot of people, numerous reports that, people with kids typically get a large tax refund. So
Hmm.
then Chime flags it as fraud. And so then now your money is held up. And some people, they weren't able to get their money back. There's like no authority over Chime because no one can step in and be like, no, I'm serious. Like there's no one over Chime that's like, y'all can't do that. There's no body over them. Yes. So a lot of people like lost their tax refunds like completely because Chime flagged it as fraud. So now the next step is like, I don't have any money. How am I going to get a lawyer to
Hmm.
go up against Chime? So,
So
it's a circle.
stay away from them.
Yes. So definitely like when you're looking to online banking or
Mhm.
any just financial institution, just make sure they're FDIC. Now, credit unions, they are not FDIC, but they're under another regulatory body that also insures. So it won't be the federal government stepping in. It's a different body that will step in and still secure your money. So those are just
Mhm.
things to look at, like when you're looking for, you know, if you're trying to get a checking account or you're trying to just get a savings account, just make sure you look at that. And it's typically towards the bottom of the
It is,
website.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah, it'll say like, oh, we're insured by
Hmm.
this body. And just a quick Google search, just just
Just
throw it over there.
do your
Yes.
due diligence with everything you put your money into. You got to make sure you research it, make
Yes,
sure it's
because
legit.
there are a lot of institutions that are malicious and they
Hmm.
try to come up, especially after like working class families.
Hmm.
Like they will try every trick in the book to get your money because you're the backbone of America. So
Yes, you are.
you're the main spender.
Gotta be vigilant. You gotta be on top of it. Radar is up, especially now with a lot of scammers. So there's a lot of scamming going on. I don't know if I got a scam from a text alert from my bank, Citibank. I don't even bank with Citibank, but I got received a scam alert that something was wrong with my account. So you guys got to be. That's another thing you got to watch out for. It. They may look like it's legit, but you got to make sure you do your research because you may be hitting the wrong link and taking you somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Yes, phishing
Mhm.
emails are the worst
Mhm.
also because then they'll just put malware on your computer. And then if you're the type of person that saves passwords to your computer, now they got access to that. A lot of things still seen is like the little skimmers on gas stations. Like
Mhm.
that's been a really big increase, especially.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So back to saving. So when you're, so we covered the different type of accounts you can have. Most people have a problem with finding a comfortable number to save. So my thing is, you should be saving 10% of your income. The other 10% can go to investments, but I say a safe number for beginners is 10%. What do you say, Catherine?
I agree. 10% is a good place to start. And for some people, when you said like 6 months of expenses, they may not even know what they spend each month to even get to that point.
That's right.
So, yeah. So or they may feel like 6 months is like too much and we're raising their blood pressure. So,
Yeah.
so
Let
let's
me
just
tell you,
say 10%.
so 6 months is depending on how much your monthly expenses are. 6 months can seem like a vast number, but how I got to my 6 months was utilizing my income tax refund. So, like, if I got an income tax refund, which I do because I have kids, I would take half of that and put it in a vehicle for savings. So that's one way you can get to your 6 months quicker, is with using your bonuses, your tax return. You know, when you're getting raises from work, you can take that extra money and you could put it towards your savings account so that you can have that reserve created.
Yes, like any type of extra money you're getting in, like from tax refunds, or even just if you're doing odd jobs on the weekend, you should be applying that to something constructive. Like, it's okay to treat yourself. Do not leave this live talking about Catherine told me I couldn't treat myself. I did not say that. I am the first one who advocates for self-care.
Yeah.
But you don't need a $500 weekend of self-care. Like
Every month.
yeah, every month. Yes.
No.
Maybe for your birthday. But
Yeah. Especially when you don't have that 6 months cushion saved. Like, that 6 months is so important. And we say 6 months because if you God forbid you were to lose your job, it usually takes about 4 months. And during that time, you want to be able to pay the bills without having to worry about paying the bills. You want to focus on looking for a new job. And that 6 months is what's going to be there to sustain you during that time.
yeah, and then even like if something was happened to your car repairs are not cheap, especially if it's anything transmission related, you're coughing out $2,000 plus. Yep. So even just that can okay, you disappeared for a second, but we're back. Like I was saying, anything with a car transmission is going to be about a $2,000 job. And so then if you don't have that money, like there's no buy here, like buy now, pay later, like the Klarna Afterpay. I don't think
there's no Afterpay for transmissions.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to take that. They're going to want their money then, because they're not going to let you drive that car. So then now what? You don't have transportation to work, or are you going to have to try to catch a ride with your cousin or someone who works at the same place with you? You're going to have to give them gas money while you're trying to, save up money. And it would probably be a little bit easier if you could work OT, but you don't have a car right now. So you're not getting that overtime. So, yeah, so it's like it all comes back. It's like a full circle, but it's a very intricate web of like how all this stuff relates, like what you need to do, because you never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen. So always work for that 6 months. And like we said, don't get afraid if that 6 months amount is like 18, 20,000. You can work your way up to that. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of honesty. It's going to take a lot of, that's not in my budget at this moment, because in the end, that's the goal. The goal is to have yourself where you're not scrambling if an emergency was to happen. You're okay. Because that weight on your shoulder, when you don't have the money to pay for something, it can really mentally tear you down. So we want to avoid that at all costs. Life is full of stuff as it is. So the more we can avoid and help, the better we are, the better off we will be.
And I just want to add to that is that while you're building up this savings, it's not that you can't touch it, because emergencies are going to happen along the way. It's just the point that if you do take money out for emergency, you start right back putting money in there once the emergency is over. So I know like some people would be like, oh, I got to save this money, and they're not touching it when they're actually going through an emergency. So, they're on the flip side of the, yes. On the flip side, from the overspender, we have the overcautious. That's like, oh my God, like I can't touch it, like, but your light's about to get turned off because HR made a
Mistake.
billing mistake. So
Hmm.
now you got to wait till your check in 2 weeks to get two checks because they may not print you another one. So it's just like Shakira said, anything can happen.
Be prepared. Be prepared for it. Yeah,
Because if you're prepared, you don't have to worry.
that's
That's
right.
the number one thing.
Always stay ready. Yeah.
So for homework,
Mhm.
I do want you to go look at your savings account and see how much interest you're earning. And I also want you to look at different high yield savings accounts.
Yes. And I would like for you to do this activity. I know it doesn't really take that long, and it's something that I really like to do. I do it every month now. Print out your statements and go through them. And you should be looking and seeing how much stuff you're spending on wants versus needs and vice versa. And if your wants are outweighing your needs, you got to scale back just a little bit. And that scaling back is only if you don't have that cushion of your savings, because I mean, we have money, we want to work, we work hard, we want to spend our money, but we have to make sure that we're secure. And that 6 month savings is making sure that we're secure. And then after that, we get into the investing. That's when you have the real fun. Like going
Yeah.
out to clubs is cool, but flexing with I got 100 shares in this company or own Apple, that's the real fun right there.
And when you get dividends every
Yes,
month.
exactly. Yeah.
I was about to say, I think that's all we have for this evening.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you all tomorrow, and everyone have a great night. And don't forget to do your homework.
Oh, and one last thing. Do not forget to put your email in the chat box because I know that you want this Building Your Credit Organically workbook.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
All right,
All
we're
right.
signing off.
Bye.